Greetings dear students. In part 1 we studied about brief concept of marginal productivity theory of wages and assumptions of marginal productivity theory of wages. Now in part 2 we will be learning about the detail of this theory. So let us start. Demand for labor by a firm arises since it has been assumed that the competition here is perfect competition, or we can say existence of pure competition. The theory assumes that there is pure competition in the labor market. So this means that firm is price taker. If we see in the graph, the first graph shows intersection of supply curve, and at point E we get to know that OW0 is the wage rate for OL0 number of laborers. And what firm will do? Firm will take this OW0 as wage rate since firm is price taker. Supply curve faced by the firm is completely elastic, and also marginal fixed cost is equal to average fixed cost. Since individual firm has to accept the wage as a price taker, so the firm has to take only one decision in order to maximize the profit, and that one decision is optimum purchase of labor at this wage. At this wage we mean OW not wage rate, which is given by the industry or say market. So the question arises that what determines an individual firm's demand for labor? That means with respect to labor, when deciding how many people to employ, the entrepreneur will compare what he has to pay. Thinking of employing one extra worker, he wants to know whether that extra worker will add more revenue to that cost or not. So the cost incurred is compared with revenue earned and help the entrepreneur to decide this. And what is marginal revenue product? It is that extra revenue which is obtained by the entrepreneur by employing one extra worker. The wage that has to be paid to the worker is known as marginal cost of the labor. Wage is cost. It is quite obvious that entrepreneur will not be desirous of paying that worker a wage which is greater than marginal revenue product. So under perfect competition, if the entrepreneur wishes to maximize the profit, he will employ labor up to the point where wage is equal to marginal revenue product. So we have understood that marginal revenue product has majorly two components. One is marginal physical product and another is the price at which firm's output is sold. So it says that under perfect competition, marginal revenue is equal to price. So marginal revenue of the product becomes MPP, that is marginal physical product, multiplied by price of the product. Now let us understand this concept with the help of an example. Suppose there are 10 workers who are producing 30 units of output. By adding one extra worker, that means 10 plus 1, which is 11. When 11 workers are, so marginal physical product is 3 units of the output. If the price of the product is rupees 6 per unit, the firm makes an extra revenue of 18. How this 18 came? When MPP, that is 3 is multiplied by price of the product, that is 6. We got 18. This 18 rupees is selling the output produced by the last worker. So is rupees 18, and this is called marginal revenue product. Now let us understand that as more and more workers are employed in the production process, keeping the amount of other factors fixed, the contribution made by every extra worker will fall after a certain point, and this is due to operation of law of diminishing marginal returns. So due to the existence of perfect competition in the product market, the price of the product remains unchanged. So marginal revenue product, which is product of marginal physical product and price, just now we discussed that MPP multiplied by price, will fall, and marginal physical product curve will be downward sloping. So this is what we are seeing in the graph. MRP is downward sloping. Also, average revenue curve, which is related to marginal revenue product, as we know that marginal revenue product and average revenue product is same in relation to MPP, that is marginal physical product. So you can see that average revenue curve is this. The point at which marginal revenue curve and average revenue curve is meeting is point X. At this point we know that it is showing OW2. So a point above marginal revenue curve, this area is a firm reaches the point of optimum purchase of labor when MRP is equal to market wage. When market wage, that is W0. Market wage is W0. W0 is workers employed is OL0. Because the wage will be equal to MRP. So you see at OW we have OL0. At this point it is if the wage rate falls to OW1, see from W0 to W1, when wage rate is falling, we see that number of workers employed will increase from OL0 to OL1. So number of workers in this case increase. When wage rate decreased, number of workers increased. So MRP curve, which lies above the ARP curve, that means this part which lies above the ARP curve, is not the part of demand curve for labor, as it is exceeding total revenue. It is exceeding total revenue. This means that lower the wage, the greater the number of workers employed. So this completes the explanation of the theory. Discuss about the criticism of this theory. The first criticism is the theory is one-sided because it focuses only on demand side of the labor market to the complete, and it is completely excluding the supply side. And in practice we know that wages are determined by both the forces, that is by demand and supply. So the theory is incomplete. Secondly, according to this theory, wages can never be more or less than marginal product of the labor. But in actual practice, we observe that trade unions often demand and succeed in getting wages beyond the marginal product of labor. And in this theory, absence of labor union creates a situation where wages are far less than marginal product of labor. In fact, wages are not only determined by market forces, it also are fixed by collective bargaining. That means where both the trade union and the employer bargain on the wage, and then they decide that this particular will be the wage rate. Thirdly, this theory is based on the assumption of perfect competition in both the labor and the commodity market. If we relax this assumption in any one side of the market, the major conclusion of the marginal productivity theory will not hold. Since perfect competition does not exist in real life market, the marginal productivity theory is unrealistic. Fourthly, it says that forces of competition lead to equalization of marginal product among different sectors or industries. And it is pointed out that theory offers only a long-term explanation of determination of wages, and it fails to explain how wages are determined in short run. So this is also one of the criticism of this theory. Fifthly, the theory says it is based on a number of unrealistic assumptions. First, the theory assumes that all workers are alike in skill, ability and efficiency. Or we can say all units of labor are homogeneous. But in practice, we observe that workers differ in ability, efficiency and productivity. So this largely accounts for inter-individual difference in wage and earnings. So it is not possible to count all the labors as homogeneous. Next criticism is when production is carried out on a very large scale, it becomes very difficult and almost impossible to measure marginal product of the labor. In large production units, the employment of one extra worker hardly makes any difference to the total product. Thus, we cannot arrive at an accurate estimate of marginal product of the labor. Next is, according to this theory, wages depend upon marginal product of the labor. And it is pointed out that converse is also true. That means labor productivity also depends on wages. It is in this context that Alfred Marshall spoke on economy of high wages. And according to Marshall, it was said that high wages promote efficiency, low wages decreases it. So if the wage rate is reasonably high or fair enough, the standard of living of the workers will also be high, and consequently the productivity of labor will rise. In this case, productivity is influenced by wages. Next criticism is marginal product of labor depends not only on usage of labor but also on supply of complementary resources. These complementary resources such as land, capital, etc. Thus, the efficiency of a worker depends at least partly on the amount of resources he has to work with. If the supply of the resources is quite abundant, the labor is scarce, the marginal product of labor will be very high indeed. The converse is also true. If a worker does not have sufficient amount of other resources, his efficiency and productivity are bound to be low. Next, marginal product of labor also depends upon the efficiency or inefficiency of management. An efficient worker will not be able to deliver the goods if he has to work under incompetent manager. Next is marginal product of labor can be measured only when a worker is actually employed. That means it can only measure employed worker at the workplace. So the question is how to employ a worker on the basis of his marginal product, because if worker is not employed, marginal product cannot be calculated, and then the circle comes again that how to employ the workers. That means the marginal productivity theory leaves this question unanswered. So this completes the marginal productivity theory of wages. Thank you, class.